the only way that we can see to get, well, it's not the only way to get change, but a powerful way to potentially get change is to try and engage all the stakeholders, bring them to a point where we can work together, where standards can, for what is sustainable, can be set and improved over time. To move an entire supply chain, you are not going to go from here to perfect sustainability in one go. If you set a standard that's very, very high, and there are standards that are very, very high out there, you know, there's organic standards and there's fair trade standards, and these things are very good, but they engage a very, very small proportion of those markets. They're not going to shift terribly damaging commodity production and other cycles towards sustainability. So we have a deliberately thought out framework of who needs to be engaged, you know, from who are the companies involved to who are the community interests involved. You know, what are the scientific and academic interests that are also interested in these things? Get those people together, get them round a table, get them discussing things. But it takes a long time, it takes a lot of diplomacy, it takes a lot of work. And it's not a process in and of itself, you know, it's only one of the things that we do in relation to these commodities. And the point I would like to make to you, it is absolutely essential to have people on the outside who keep saying, well, you know, well and good, but you're a long way from there yet. Keep going. You have to persist, and you have to keep that up. You know, you have to keep us and organisations like Oxfam honest. But you can't progress, I don't think, if you don't have people holding up the flag and saying, you know, this is what the world needs, and other people who are working to say, okay, well, there's the target, you know, what are the steps we need to take to get us towards that?
Okay, and can you give some concrete examples of results WWF had with these kinds of collaborations?
Well, talking about the most controversial things with, you know, palm oil, for instance. Human rights and land tenure are very difficult issues in a place like Indonesia, and it is quite correct to say there should be proper legal frameworks to protect people's customary rights and things, but those things don't exist. But one of the fruits of our engagement with the industry is that those producers that are entering that scheme for having their palm oil certified, and we certify the commodity, not the company. We don't do the certification anyway. It's the round table. But putting conditions in there for the recognition of customary rights and consultation processes and dispute resolution processes. This has introduced something into the land tenure equation in places like Borneo and Sumatra and Papua that haven't existed before. So, sure, there should be and there needs to be a legal, you know, a legislative base to say, you know, that's how it works. But in the absence of that, there's a standard being set up there that communities are already finding useful. They are finding that companies can't just take over their land now. They have to go and talk to them. They have to think if there's a dispute, then there's a separate and independent mechanism now for the resolution. Now, it's not ideal, and it will get better over time, but it's a start.
Okay. I will ask one more question to Wilfried, and afterwards we can indeed pass the microphone to you. So you started by saying that in the beginning you were always buying these products of WWF. Then you found out that there was a problem in Norway. Today, after making this movie, what is your conclusion today about the WWF as an organization?
I think I expressed it in the documentary already, but and I prefer to have a civilized debate. I don't want to go in more general judgments now. Let's look at the details or at the concrete things. The last big not partnership, the last big roundtable founded with WWF is soy roundtable, and we are a big market in Europe because we need it desperately for the so-called green energy, renewable energy. Because in Argentina, where we filmed, more than 90% of this soy oil is converted to biodiesel. So that's the main pressure to the markets, main pressure to destroy forests and to destroy agricultural land in Argentina. And there are organizations, especially small farmers, who say we have to resist, we have to block it, even with radical measures if necessary. We can't accept it. And when this turns to be called a sustainable production, it will be worse, because then the policymakers in Europe are quite satisfied and say, okay, our soy only comes from sustainable soy. That's a danger. And therefore, I think it was a big problem that WWF, as the only big international NGO, participated in that roundtable to create the criteria and principles of so-called responsible soy, which led to the decision in the European Commission to let it into Europe, compatible with the renewable energy directive so that has consequences. If you do participate and give your green okay, then that has consequences for the market and for the policymakers. And you and Monsanto and 400 others voted in favor of this so-called principles for responsible soy, which includes sustainability, nature protection, and there was no need to do it. And now this includes genetically modified soy. That was a breakthrough for the industry, because they, of course, want it. They want to introduce it in the European market. But why did you do it the same way? Why did you accept it? Why did you vote for? Why did Hughes Grant, the big boss of Monsanto, negotiate directly with Jason Clay the same time in Washington? I don't say the WWF is the only who is responsible, but without WWF, it wouldn't have made any sense for industry to create such an expensive certification system, which brings to us a big illusion that you really can produce in a monocultural, industrialized agriculture with this big impact of Monsanto and herbicides, sustainable product. That's your responsibility.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I can first give some. Nina was the first one who asked.
Well, later, my name is Nina Holland. I'm from Corporate Europe Observatory. Later, I would like to say something about the role that WWF plays in the lobbying in Brussels. For example, on biofuels, which we also call agrofuels. But first, I would like to respond a little bit to the claims you make in your responses. First of all, on the fact that WWF would be open to scrutiny from other organizations. And also that WWF works with communities. Those are two claims that, in my experience, I don't see. First of all, since before 2005, we have been alerted by Jorge Rulli, who appeared in the movie in Argentina, about the existence of the Roundtable on Responsible Soy. That was the very beginning. And people in Argentina were extremely furious about this initiative and organized a counter-conference in Foz d'Iguaçu and at the first big conference of the Round Table. Since then, there's been consistent and fierce opposition from almost every organization, Via Campesina, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, many social local movements throughout Latin America. We have organized a lot of petitions, letter writing to WWF, to Solidaridad, that's another NGO that is supporting this. So there's been consistent criticism, especially on the responsible soy, but also on the so-called sustainable palm oil. And there's never been any clear response to us or to these movements from WWF taking some kind of responsibility for them legitimizing the business partners in the Round Table that are going around to politicians, to the media, saying, you know, we are part of the Round Table on Responsible Soy, so we are doing something. Whereas in fact, what this Round Table does is legitimize the expansion of soy fields, for example, in northwest Argentina, among other things, for the production of soy biodiesel. So I think in that sense, I haven't seen any sign of WWF being open to scrutiny and taking in any way a different kind of stance. What I have seen is that many national WWF organizations like France, like Belgium, are extremely unhappy with the participation of WWF in these roundtables and legitimizing, for instance, herbicide-resistant soy as responsible, have written a letter, and even those national organizations cannot change the policy of WWF International and some other national organizations who are in favor. On the communities, I will not expound because otherwise it will be too long.
Maybe we'll come back to him. Well, I think it's better maybe to have.
Can I turn around just to see? Actually, I think we should have a quiz, because the thing is, everything is like, it's content, it's choices. Sorry that I want to ask a question, but I want to do it in like a constructive way, because I think that a lot of topics here are put into one movie and all the topics are to be explored separately. Now, what I want to do is an experiment, and I don't know if you'd agree, but can I just do two questions? Can I do two questions? One, who is, and that's my question also to you two in the same way, who is against all forms of big, large-scale production of foods and biofuels? I'm Lucy, I'm just an interpreter. Actually, I don't normally have to do with stuff like this, but it's very clear, it's unstructured, and I was so concerned that who is against, because it's two things, it's WWF as an organization, and it's the principle of the ideal or the idea of not having monoculture, biofuels and GMOs, and these are two separate things. There's the methods and the organization on one hand. So my question is, my question to you is, who is against?
When we go voting in a democratic society, at least you have choice between 6, 7, or 8 parties, and not only between black and white. You know?
No, but it's not black and white. I'm just generally want to know the general opinion in this room. And is everybody, are we, actually I am against it. So, you're not going to answer this? Or anybody is going to answer from the two speakers?
Yeah. Look, it would be ideal to have all of our foodstuffs and fibre needs met from small family farms. That's the world that I'd prefer, but it's not the world we're in. And that's the problem. We tend to start from the point that we have to work on. Nina raised a lot of valuable points about the soy issue, and it's not simple. It's not easy. One of the problems